golf cart, the pros at Dixie Custom Carts can handle the job. Dixie Custom Carts, Greensboro Avenue in Tuscaloosa.
Live from the heart of SEC country, this is your daily fix of grit, guts, and gridiron glory. Welcome to the Deep South College Football Show.
Bowen, here it goes! Georgia retakes the lead!
Breaking down the biggest matchups, the boldest takes, and the deepest rivalries in college football on Tide 100.9 and 1230 AM WTBC.
Intercepted! They confused him! Xavier Brown headed the other way! Touchdown Tide!
From Fayetteville to Gainesville, from the Grove to Toomer's Corner, it's SEC football.
Chandler delivers! Touchdown!
Now, here's your award-winning host, Wyatt Fulton.
Welcome into a Thursday edition here of the Deep South College Football Show on Tide 100.9 and 1230 AM WTBC, your home for Alabama Crimson Tide sports. Got a fun show for you guys today here. If you're checking us out on YouTube, we greatly appreciate it. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Welcome into the Deep South College Football Show. If you're checking us out on the Tide 100.9 Facebook page, again, we appreciate that. And if you're checking us out on X, again, thank you so much. Be sure to leave a like, a subscribe. And if you got any questions, comments, or concerns, leave them in the chat. We'll talk about it today here on the program. We got Reed, man of the ones and twos, back here in the studio. Reed, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Wyatt. I mean, summer's practically coming up. I mean, I know this weekend it's supposed to be hitting upper 80s, hopefully 90s, which, I don't know if you know this, but I'm a big fan of the hot weather.
I am as well, mainly because, summer weather, right? You go out on the beach, you go out on the lake, go on the boat, wherever you are, just get to enjoy the summer weather. And while it's not too terribly hot, I know we're in mid-May here now, and it does get pretty warm in Tuscaloosa pretty quickly, but it's better than the just nasty heat waves that you're getting in August. So go out, enjoy the sun, enjoy the weather here in Tuscaloosa. Got a fun show for you guys today, though. We're going to be drafting college football playoff contenders, kind of like a snake draft, with the NFL draft. With that over with, a lot of dynasty leagues are now doing their rookie drafts, right? So you'll go in and you'll start drafting players. Who gets Jeremiah Love? Who gets Carnell Tate? Who ends up taking their quarterback of the future with Fernando Mendoza? So we're going to do that with college football playoff contenders, but we're going to do it snake draft style here. So whoever gets the first overall pick, they'll take their team. Then, so let's say, I get the first overall pick. I'll take my team. Reed, you would go two teams, then I would go two, and we'll just go back and forth like that here, drafting college football playoff contenders. And at the end, we'll decide who's got the best chance of one of their teams winning the national championship here today on the program. And we'll also take a little bit of a trip down to Knoxville, Tennessee, as you've got quarterback news there in Knoxville from Trey Wallace of Outkick. So obviously Alabama's big rival, the third Saturday in October. That's a big deal. And so we'll kind of keep an eye on what's happening there in Knoxville, Tennessee. If you want to jump in the program, I mentioned it, you can leave us a chat there in the live chat on YouTube. You can also leave a comment on the Tide 100.9 Facebook page. We can throw those comments up on the screen if you've got any questions, comments, or concerns. You can also download that Tide 100.9 app and leave us an app message there. We'll read that on the air. Or you can dial 205-342-9904, just like Robert did. Robert, how you doing? Welcome into Tuscaloosa.
Hey, buddy. I followed up from Christian's talk earlier. The offensive line, you go through the football position by position. This season comes down to one thing and one thing only: offensive line. I mean, if we're fine at quarterback, whoever they play, I don't care. Defense, if these big guys up front are worth the dang, we're going to be fine up front. I mean, on defense, we've got, the defensive backs, enough running backs, enough wide receivers. Can the offensive line, can we run the ball for 112 yards a game and not give up 4 sacks a game? It'd be middle of the pack rushing and pass pro better than last year. This team, it's a playoff team. But the only thing that concerns me is the age of the offensive line. They're all very, 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 very young. or inexperienced except at one position, and that's is that the center, I think, or the right tackle. He played half the year. It's just young. And can you win in the SEC consistently with 19-year offensive linemen? And I don't know the answer to that. I would say no. 5 years ago, I'd say no. But these guys, their average age is probably 19, second year in college, right? Most of them. So
most of them, you got a bunch of second-year guys,
and a lot of them hadn't played. Who has played? The right tackle played half the year for us. The center came from Division IV or whatever in California. He's played a lot, but everybody else is pretty green, I think, right?
Michael Carroll started. Yeah, Michael Carroll started half the year. Javen James started games at Mississippi State if he does end up working the spot on that offensive line there for Alabama. William Sanders, who missed all of spring practice with a back injury, he's kind of projected to win that starting left guard spot, but again, he missed all of spring. He got some decent run last season, kind of rotating in alongside Cam Dewberry and Geno Vandermark. But in terms of starts, you're absolutely right. Michael Carroll's got 6 under his belt, half of the season. And outside of that, nobody on this offensive line has starts for Alabama. Robert, did I lose you? Robert, we may have lost Robert here, but we'll see if we can get him back on the phone lines here. But no, he's absolutely right. This is a very young offensive line when you look at Alabama from left to right, kind of the projected quote unquote starting lineup here. You've got Jackson Lloyd. You've got Jackson Lloyd, or Ryan Grubb kind of named the quote unquote starting left tackle for Alabama. But he hasn't started, right? I think the most reps he's gotten was probably last season when Alabama was beating the tar out of Louisiana Monroe and Eastern Illinois. And then when Caden Proctor was sitting outside ready to go catch a pass or lined up in the backfield ready to take a handoff, Jackson Lloyd would come in at that left tackle spot. But, I mean, he hasn't gotten quote-unquote meaningful reps for Alabama, and they just kind of felt comfortable enough saying, yeah, you know what? Third spring practice of the year, that's your starting left tackle.
And then I'm going to bounce this question to you just because, like you said, we have so much inexperience on the offensive line, and everyone obviously goes to that left tackle as the most important. But would you also say, is there another part of the line, whether it is the left tackle, whether it's the center, position, where we're pretty much replacing the entire O-line, maybe outside of Michael Carroll, that we need to make sure, even if the rest of it maybe is a duplicate of last season, we just need to make sure what is that one position that we need to make sure we hit and make sure we get that right guy.
It's left tackle and it's center. Those are, in my opinion, the two most important positions along the offensive line. I think left tackle is the most important because he's your blindside protector for 99.9% of quarterbacks. The Tuas of the world aren't out there very much when it comes to quarterback play. So the left-handed quarterback, your blindside protector is your left tackle. So that is your most important position on the offensive line. Your next most important position is that center spot. We've seen it at times with Alabama where, they've had a really good center. I think back to, Ryan Kelly, Landon Dickerson in the Saban era. And then in the DeBoer era, it's only been Parker Brailsford. But you've got to have a center that is not only strong, obviously, you need a good, strong center to be able to anchor down and stop some of those big bull rushers that you're going to face along that interior of the defensive line in the SEC. But you need somebody who's smart as well because he's communicating with the quarterback. He's identifying blitzes. He's helping change slide protections and things like that. And so if you're a center, you've got to be one of the smartest players, but also one of the strongest players on the team. And that's not always an easy combination to find when you talk about offensive line play. So I would argue center is your second most important position. But again, from left to right, Jackson Lloyd, the redshirt freshman, that's how little he played last season, I believe. Jackson Lloyd is your projected starter at that left tackle spot. At left guard, Alabama's kind of left it up in the air a little bit. We saw on A-Day Mal Waldrop get reps at left guard there. Well, after A-Day, it kind of started to come out, hey, Ethan Fields is banged up. So, he was kind of getting some reps ahead of Mal Waldrop there at left guard. And, oh, by the way, your guy who got your, second most meaningful reps at left guard last season outside of Cam Dewberry was William Sanders. Well, he missed all of spring practice with a back injury. So you were effectively running with your third string left guard during A-Day. So that position's still up in the air. Can William Sanders, despite not participating in much of spring practice, can he win that starting spot in fall camp? Or does Ethan Fields kind of build on what he was doing positively, the Ole Miss transfer? Does he come in and is he able to build on what he was doing in spring ball and win that starting job? We don't know yet. Or does Mal Waldrop take advantage of the fact that he got starting reps on A-Day, worked out over the summer, and wins the job in fall camp? We don't really know what's going to happen at left guard there. At center, it's pretty much been Cal Poly transfer Rayson Delgatti since day one. He's kind of been that starting guy, and I know a lot of people are really concerned about his size. You look at Rayson Delgatti compared to what you expect from a starting center, and he doesn't quite have the size that maybe you would expect. I will say he's bigger than what Parker Brailsford was last season. Brailsford was what, 6'2", 290 pounds or so, 289. Delgatti is 6'3", 301. So he is a little bit stockier than what Parker Brailsford was, but he doesn't have the experience that Brailsford did. Not saying that he had less starts, but Brailsford, before coming to Alabama, redshirted his true freshman year at Washington, started 13 games, 1 at right guard and 12 at center for Washington in 2023 when they made the national championship game, and then transferred into Alabama where he was a 2-year starter at center for the Crimson Tide. So Delgatti, even though he is transferring in and he's a little bit bigger than what Parker Brailsford was last season, it's not really apples to apples, right? Because Cal Poly is not the same caliber of school that Alabama is. Now, I will say Josh Cuevas came from Cal Poly, and we all saw what he was to Alabama last season. So maybe it is, maybe it's a little bit of a feeder program type of situation there, where Cal Poly is able to find some of these diamonds in the rough, and then they succeed. They end up going to a bigger school and end up getting drafted. That was the case with Josh Cuevas, and so you hope that's the case with Rayson Delgatti. The right side of the offensive line is a really interesting conversation too, because at right guard, you had some combination of Wilkin Formby, Jaden Roberts, Gino Vandemark a season ago. Well, Vandemark and Roberts gone off to the NFL. Wilkin Formby took about $1 million to go to Texas A&M and go play for the Aggies this season. So you've got to replace that spot. It was thought early in the offseason that maybe Michigan transfer Caden Strayhorn could take that spot. Maybe you do, you brought in 2 big body guards in Ethan Fields and Nick Brooks out of Texas. So maybe the loser of that left guard fight could come over and slide into that right guard spot, whether it be Ethan Fields or Nick Brooks, Fields from Ole Miss, Brooks from Texas. But now it seems like maybe Alabama is kicking Michael Carroll into that spot, because during A-Day, we saw him get reps at right guard. And that was a big point of conversation there during spring ball for Alabama. Hey, what does Michael Carroll provide? He provides you versatility, right? He started 6 games at right tackle last season. He came in as an offensive guard. So Michael Carroll, he's going to be good in either spot. So what that allows you to do is that allows you to experiment with the other spot. If you line up Michael Carroll at right tackle, who's your best right guard at that point? If you line him up at right guard, who's your best right tackle? Okay, is our offensive line better with Michael Carroll and Javen James with Michael Carroll at right guard and Javen James at right tackle? Or is it better with Michael Carroll at right tackle and Nick Brooks or Ethan Fields or Caden Strayhorn at right guard? So that's kind of what Alabama was experimenting with in the spring. And then I mentioned his name already, Javen James at right tackle. That was your A-Day lineup, was Michael Carroll at right guard, Javen James at right tackle there for Alabama. So if that's what Alabama deems to be the best lineup, Michael Carroll will be a guard this season. If it's not, Michael Carroll may go kick back out to right tackle. I don't believe there's any sort of inclination that they may kick Michael Carroll to, left guard or any other position. I think he's probably going to play that right spot there for Alabama, but it just depends on, is your offensive line better with Carroll at guard and James at tackle, or is it better with somebody else at guard and Carroll at tackle? So that's what offensive line coach Adrian Clem is facing when he looks at this offensive line redevelopment for Alabama. Remember, 11 new guys are in this offensive line room compared to what last season's offensive line looked like. So a lot of new faces, a lot of chemistry's got to be built. And oh, by the way, Adrian Clem, the new offensive line coach who previously coached offensive line at Oregon for the Pittsburgh Steelers, at Oregon, and then in the NFL for the Pittsburgh Steelers and the New England Patriots as well. He's tasked with not only rebuilding this offensive line, but also helping Ryan Grubb and Robert Gillespie reestablish Alabama's run game. Because Kalen DeBoer mentioned it yesterday on Greg McElroy's show, Always College Football for ESPN. You need physicality in the run game. You need to be able to establish physicality on a football team. You win ball games in the trenches. I know everybody is cliche about it, but that's where football games are won. There's a reason the two teams that played for the national championship last season, Miami and Indiana, had two of the best offensive and defensive lines in the country. So the recipe is clear. The recipe is very obvious for what Alabama needs to do this season. Establish the offensive and defensive line. Establish your presence in the trenches. And if you can do that, then maybe Alabama is better than they were a season ago. We don't know if that will equate to a better record or a better postseason performance, but if they are better than what they were last year, I have a hard time viewing Alabama as anything but a team that could compete for a deep run in the college football playoff. All right, we'll go ahead and take this first break here, pay some bills, and on the other side, we will establish the draft order by flipping a coin, and we'll start drafting teams that we think can win a national championship. You're listening to the Deep South College Football Show on Tide 100.9 and 1230 AM WTBC, your home for Alabama Crimson Tide sports.
I rolled up my sleeves in Congress, and I'll keep fighting for Alabama in the U.S. Senate. I'm Barry Moore, a conservative fighter, and I approve this message.
Approved and paid for by Barry Moore for U.S. Senate.
Want to know what's going on with the Crimson Tide? Download the Tide 100.9 app today.
Welcome back into the Deep South College Football Show right here on Tide 100.9 and 1230 AM WTBC, your home for Alabama Crimson Tide sports. We talked a little bit about Alabama's offensive line in the previous segment here. Jackson, it feels like we've just kind of been hounding the offensive line ad nauseum here when you look at the Crimson Tide's offensive line. But for Alabama, this is kind of the big sticking point is you've got to get this offensive line figured out. You've got to establish physicality in the run game. You've got to establish the ability to protect your starting quarterback. And so some people may be tired of hearing us talk about the offensive line for Alabama, but being based in Tuscaloosa, we know the Crimson Tide better than anybody else here pretty much. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about Alabama's offensive line because of how crucial it is that Alabama figure that area of the ball out.
Absolutely. I mean, last year, what was everything we heard about the criticism, it was offensive line play. So when you're going into an offseason like that, from a season where all you heard about was the complaints on the offensive line and the trench play, that's what you're going to hear the most. That's what you want to hear the most. And so if it's, consistent improvement, that's what you want to hear. And it sounds like that's what we're getting.
And that's hopefully what you continue to see if you're an Alabama fan, right? So we're going to shift our focus here a little bit. We're going to start drafting teams that we think can win a national championship. Norris is hanging out with us here as well. Do you want in on this exercise?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
All right. So we got myself, Jackson, and Norris here. So I don't really know how to do this. So what we're going to do here. All right. Jackson, you're going to call this. Do you want heads or tails on this coin?
Give me heads.
All right. So if it's heads, you'll go up against Norris for the first pick. If it's tails, I go up against Norris for the first pick. So we're going to flip this here on the stream so everybody can see it. It's tails. Norris, do you want heads or tails?
Heads.
He wants heads. So if it's heads, you get the first pick. I get pick number 2. If it's tails, I get pick 1. You get pick 2. Ready? We're flipping it here, trying to be honest. It's tails again. So I guess I end up with the first overall pick. Norris, you will go second. Jackson, you will go third here when we look at picking our teams as we kind of talk about the college football playoff here. So first up for me, I got a lot of ways that I could go with this. looking at the teams that can win a national championship here, there's a lot of them in college football that I think are good enough to win a national championship, but can they piece everything together? I'm going to take the number one team in the SP+. I'm going to go Ohio State. You've got a veteran quarterback in Julian Sayin. You've got the best wide receiver in college football in Jeremiah Smith. You've also got a pretty stout run game with Bo Jackson. You also brought in Chris Henry Jr. on offense. Brandon Ennis is back there as kind of maybe a slot type receiver for Ohio State there. So I will happily, with my first overall pick, take the Ohio State Buckeyes. Some concerns on defense, yes, but who needs defense when your offense can score 70 points a game and you're not playing anybody with the pulse outside of Indiana and Michigan? So I'll take Ohio State. Norris, who are you taking with your first team? You cannot choose Ohio State. That's how this works. So if I take a team, you can't take them.
Miami.
All right, so you're rolling with the Miami Hurricanes. Why do you like Miami?
Honestly, they shocked me. I didn't think they were going to make it all the way to the national championship last year. And just I don't think that's a team that you should sleep on. If they're that good to make it all the way and lose, they can win a national championship. So don't sleep on Miami just because they just made it. Don't think that's going to be their final time in the playoffs or anything like that.
I think you're right. Mario Cristobal, a really good head coach down there in South Florida. Obviously, you paid all that money to go get Darian Mensah. You bring back Malachi Toney, Mark Fletcher back at running back. Yes, you lost your big offensive tackle in Francis Maui-Noah. You replaced him with the best offensive tackle in the high school recruiting class. So that defense should still be stout despite losing Akeem Mesidor and Ruben Bain. I like the Miami pick. Jackson, who do you got here?
Give me Georgia.
Jackson taking the Georgia Bulldogs. I'm utterly shocked at this, but why are you taking Georgia?
Well, let's be real. You think Kirby's going to get bounced in their first playoff game 3 years in a row?
To be fair, I didn't think Kirby was going to get bounced in his first playoff game 2 years in a row. So now I'm a little nervous saying it's not going to happen three times in a row.
Fair, but they may not win the SEC again. I don't really think that matters for them. They just won it back to back. I think they're fine if they don't get a first round bye and able, to get rolling in the first round of the 12 team and then hit their stride. And I think, they got a lot returning on that defense. Basically the whole defense minus, Christian Miller and Dalen Everett and CJ Allen. But you still have veteran guys that are coming back in Raylan Wilson, DeMello Jones, Ellis Robinson, Gabe Harris. I mean, that defense is loaded. Yeah. KJ Bolden. And then on the offensive side, you're returning your probably the best all-around backfield in the SEC, I would say. You obviously, it's not Ahmad Hardy or Kewan Lacey, but
in terms of backfield as a whole, I think Georgia's depth is better than what Ole Miss and Missouri have. Ole Miss and Missouri just have the better RB1.
100%, and they brought in another running back who's been balling in spring, and Dante Dowdle from the transfer from Kentucky.
Yep.
And then you have, the wideouts is probably the only question on that roster going into next year, but I think they're perfectly fine. They would have taken way more transfer wide receivers if they didn't feel confident in the guys they have. And then you have, of course, a returning quality quarterback in Gunnar Stockton, who finished top 10 in the Heisman voting last year. So I think they're in for a good season.
So in our first slate here, in our first round, I've taken Ohio State. Norris has got Miami. Jackson has got Georgia. On the other side of this break here, we'll continue talking about this. And we're doing a snake draft here. So what that means is that I will go last this go round. So Jackson, be thinking about who you're going to take with your first pick here in the second round here on Tide 100.9 and 1230 AM WTBC.
Any problems you got with a damp crawl space or a crack in your foundation. They even do pest control and lawn care. Full service Alabama Professional Services at alabamaprofessional.com.
What does it mean to advertise and do your marketing with Town Square Media Tuscaloosa? Melissa started her business in 2014. What would you say to someone considering Town Square Media Tuscaloosa?
My experience with Town Square Media has been awesome, and I would definitely recommend it to anyone. I think that this is the first time in my marketing experience that I've been able to see my return on investment. I would definitely say in the past that has not been the case. In this, I like knowing that that's 100%. A lot lot of the marketing we've done has been radio. You guys have so much more to offer than that, whether it's, websites, from targeted marketing to radio. You are kind of a one-stop shop, and it makes doing marketing so much easier. So I would definitely recommend it.
For more info on marketing with Town Square Media Tuscaloosa, call 205-345-7200 or click on Advertise with Us on our website.
Alabama fans are all over the world, and we are too. Download the Tide 100.9 app right now in the App Store and Google Play, and take the Crimson Tide everywhere you go.
Back into the Deep South College Football Show, where we are drafting teams that we think can win the national championship. We're doing this snake draft style, so I got the first overall pick via a coin flip, and I took Ohio State. Norris had the second pick, going with Miami, and Jackson took the Georgia Bulldogs with pick number 3. We now enter the second round here. Jackson, who's your first pick of the second round?
Texas.
Why Texas?
Well, I'm just going to go SEC because I'm an SEC homer, but also,
fair.
I mean, you bring in Cam Coleman, you got Ryan Wingo, Hollywood Smothers. That offense is going to be cooking unless they don't have, quality offensive line play, which they struggled with last year, which seems to be the common thing around college football. But also that defense, Colin Simmons, you got just a loaded defense there again, and you bring in Will Muschamp. Now, is Muschamp still the same Muschamp from when he had, the top defenses in college football? That remains to be seen. But I do think it's an upgrade from what they had last year on defense.
I think it is too. And you still got to replace, Anthony Hill and Malik Muhammad in that defensive side of the ball. But Colin Simmons is always a really nice piece to have there on defense if you are the Texas Longhorns there. This feels like an all-in year for Texas. You spend all this money, you get the veteran quarterback you've got the veteran quarterback with Arch Manning. You spend the money to go get guys like Raleigh Brown and Hollywood Smothers. You go get Cam Coleman. You spend big in the portal, essentially all around the field. And this kind of feels like, hey, this is it. This was the target year that we've been targeting. Doesn't mean that we haven't been able to compete for championships in other years. Remember, 2 years ago, they were in the semifinal against Ohio State in a one-score game in the red zone. But Ohio State's Jack Sawyer forced a fumble, and we all know how that game ended. Last year, a bit of an up-and-down season from Texas, starting the year with the loss to Ohio State, some sputtering wins against SEC competition before ending the season really, really strong against Texas A&M and in that bowl game against Michigan as well. So this feels like the all-in year for Texas. If they can't get it done this year, you're almost resetting that cycle going into next year.
Yeah, and they missed Georgia in the regular season, so they can, put another extra W in the win column instead of an L.
First time that Texas does not play Georgia or Alabama in the regular season since 2021. So that'll be a fun matchup there when you look at Texas. That'll be fun kind of getting to see Texas, what they look like outside of that big matchup against Georgia, because they've kind of gotten their butts handed to them the last 2 years when they face Georgia there. Norris, who are you taking with your second pick?
Alabama.
Rolling with the Crimson Tide. Why are you taking Alabama at this point?
I feel like most people sleep on DeBoer. Let me tell you why they sleep on DeBoer. I don't know if have you noticed each year he has gotten better each year since he's been there. Now we all know Alabama. He's not Nick Saban. He's never going to be Nick Saban. Ever since he started, of course, Bama went down, of course, but that was expected. But I don't know if anybody has noticed each year since he's been there, they've gotten more progress done. Of course, first year, they didn't make the playoffs. This year, they made the playoffs. And they have some key starters coming back to, of course, they got Ryan Williams. You got Bray Hubbard, of course. If I messed up his name, I'm sorry. And they also need to focus on, someone said this earlier, they also need to focus on their O-line too. Like how you said, left tackle is the most important thing. And also that center, which, bottom line is, Alabama's not a team to be slept on. I understand it's not Nick Saban, but don't sleep on Alabama thinking they can't go all the way to a national championship, because they've done it 18 times, don't think they can't do it again. That's all I want to say. I
like it. Norris taking Alabama here. So, Jackson, you've we've gotten through 3 SEC teams here, 1 Big Ten, 1 ACC. I feel like I'm going to look like a Big Ten homer with this pick.
I know who you're taking.
Who do you think I'm going with?
Oregon.
Yeah. I was going to say, I look like the Big Ten homer here right now, taking Oregon. But, I mean...
I was about to take them, and then I was like, I can't.
You can't now. Dante Moore's back for Oregon. Evan Stewart back. DeCorian Moore back. Two new coordinators. Will Stein, the previous offensive coordinator, now the head coach at Kentucky. Tosh Lapoy, the previous defensive coordinator, now the head coach at Cal. Going to be really interesting to see how they kind of go about replacing those guys. But even still, I really, really like Oregon there from a talent perspective on their roster because they've got a very, very talented roster. Oregon's always got some of the best athletes in the country there. And when you look at Oregon's schedule here, it's they do face a couple of, I guess, if you want to call them difficult opponents. No Ohio State in the regular season there. I lied. I apologize. They do go to Ohio State. I didn't see them on the schedule there. Ohio State and Michigan. You avoid Indiana, who kind of handled business against them last season. No Penn State in the first year under new head coach Matt Campbell there. No Rocco Beck with Penn State either. And you get Ohio State and Michigan back-to-back, yes, but late in the season. So Oregon theoretically should be hitting their stride at this point. No hangover or anything like that from the new coordinators coming in and not quite understanding what to do. So I actually really like Oregon in this spot here. Rolling through here, we are entering the 3rd round. So Norris, you've got Miami and Alabama. Jackson, you've got Georgia and Texas, all SEC. I've got Ohio State and Oregon, no SEC. I'm going to jump in on the SEC train here. Now, finally kind of getting away from the Big Ten homerism here.
Don't say it.
Don't say who.
You know who. LSU.
Oklahoma. I'm going to take Oklahoma here. They're in a very similar spot.
We're going to take LSU.
I thought about it. I thought about LSU, but I'm going to go Oklahoma here. A very similar spot to where Alabama is. In the fact that they've got to get better in the run game and along the offensive line. Now, thanks to our buddy Jay, Unfair Sports from Locked On Sooners, he's kind of given us a little bit of an insight into Oklahoma. Their spring game, that offensive line looked much, much improved from what they were a season ago. And the run game, that was such a big issue for Oklahoma last season. Their coach was DeMarco Murray. He's now off to Kansas City to join the Chiefs. And they brought in the running backs coach that recruited Jadarian Price and Jeremiah Love to Notre Dame. So if that running back coach is as good as he can be, as good as it seems like he is, getting those two guys to Notre Dame, Oklahoma should have no issues running the football. We know what John Mateer is. They brought in Parker Livingston, the sneaky good wide receiver from Texas there. And you always know the defense is going to be very formidable under Brent Venables. So Oklahoma, a 10-2 team last season that sat in the same position as Alabama, 10-2, couldn't run the ball to save their life. Quarterback had to play Superman more often than not. And if I get a fully healthy John Mateer over the course of a season, I think Oklahoma can be a very, very dangerous team here when you look at the college football playoff and competing for a national championship. Norris, who do you got for your 3rd pick?
I was scared you was going to pick LSU because I got LSU.
All right, so you're rolling with LSU. So you're buying the Lane Kiffin hype train here.
Yes, because I'm excited. I want to see what they can do. And I'm going to let you know, I'm excited to watch them play Bama because I feel like that's going to be a toss-up.
It's going to be a fun game. It's going to be a very fun game. It's
going to be a really fun game, which I never hate on Bama. I love Bama to death, but I feel like LSU going to beat Bama this year, in my opinion.
LSU's going to be a really tough team this season. So Sam Leavitt, new quarterback, new head coach, Lane Kiffin, new offensive coordinator, Charlie Weiss.
So you got some returning players, too?
You do. You got some dogs like DJ Pickett and Whit Weeks on the defensive side of the ball there for LSU.
I feel like that's a true dark horse in the whole college football. Like, that's a true dark horse. I don't think nobody would expect them to go probably far.
Okay. I like it. I like that pick a lot there. Jackson, Are you staying in the SEC or are you finally venturing out?
Nope, I'm going independent. Give me Notre Dame.
Notre Dame. Why you like the Fighting Irish?
I mean, they're returning basically everybody. Look at that schedule. It's a cakewalk. Straight to an undefeated top 4 seed for Notre Dame. And if they don't even deserve to be in the playoffs if you're losing 1 or 2 games on that schedule.
Well, they got to play Miami, though.
Then also you got to think about it. Texas had a cupcake schedule. They ain't going nowhere.
They play Miami and they play BYU, I think, too.
They do play BYU. But
so,
you should smack around BYU. Let's be real.
They should. They should. Yeah.
But Miami, okay. If that's your only loss.
So you're saying at worst 11-1 regular season for Notre Dame?
Yes.
All right. I can dig it. We'll go ahead and take this break a little early here, and then we'll wrap up the loose ends. We'll go 2 more rounds of this. That way we've got 5 teams apiece here. So 2 more rounds. Be thinking about it, you two over there. You're listening to the Deep South College Football Show right here on Tide 100.9 and 1230 AM WTBC.
Miles away. Explore what's possible. Ask your doctor about Tremfya. Visit Tremfya.com or call 1-800-526-7736.
The best station in the state, breaking down Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
We're drafting national championship contenders here on the Deep South College Football Show. Going to go 5 rounds because we got 3 of us, so I think that's a nice little round out list of teams here. I've got Ohio State, Oregon, and Oklahoma. Didn't realize I was going with the O theme there. Norris, you've got Miami, Alabama, and LSU. And Jackson, you've got Georgia, Texas, and Notre Dame. We're doing this a snake draft style. So, Jackson, you just took Notre Dame. You're back on the clock. Who are you taking here?
Texas A&M.
Texas A&M, returning quarterback Marcel Reed. What else you like about the Aggies?
The defense, but also that wide receiver room. I think between Mario Craver and Isaiah Horton.
Yeah.
If Marcel Reed can get his accuracy and decision-making down a little better and improve there, I think they're off to the races.
That's fair. I like Texas A&M a lot. Just hard to shake that Texas 8-4 label when you look at the Aggies, but they did it last year, playing the bottom half of the SEC schedule. If they can do it this season, I assume their schedule will not feature the bottom half of the SEC yet again, but if they can do it again this year, then A&M could very well be a title contender. Norris, you're up with your 4th pick here. Who are you taking to win who are you drafting here? You got Miami, Alabama, and LSU right now. Texas Tech. So you still like the Red Raiders even without Brendan Sorsby?
Yep. And then I just looked at their schedule. They got a cakewalk just like Notre Dame do.
They kind of do have a cakewalk.
Then they got some returning players coming too. I'm just looking at this schedule. They ain't really playing not too many hard teams like all the rest of these people have to. So I got Texas Tech. They should have cakewalk. They should be in the playoffs pretty easily.
So you're also going to roll with Texas Tech there. I've got Ohio State, Oregon, and Oklahoma. A&M was going to be my pick here, but Jackson sniped him from me here. I think Jackson's got a pretty good list of teams here right now as well. Dang. I think I'm going to stick with the O theme here. I'm going to go with Ole Miss. The Rebels are returning Trinidad Chambliss. They're returning Kejuan Lacey as well. And so you know that the offense should be fine when you look at Ole Miss here. Defensively, you got the head coach, Pete Golding, who will be your primary defensive play caller, I believe. And so as long as the offense can survive, I think the defense is more than capable of winning you some ball games. And if you come out of that matchup with LSU with the victory, you really set yourself up with success here if you are the Ole Miss Rebels. So I like Ole Miss a lot in this situation. My final pick here will be the reigning national champions, the Indiana Hoosiers. I like this. I like their addition of Josh Hoover a lot. And Kurt Cignetti now has the championship caliber under his belt. Both those coordinators are back. Little bit of concern at, receiver in the run game, but Josh Hoover made chicken salad out of chicken crap with TCU as a passer. And so now he's got a program that over the last 2 years has a much better pedigree than what TCU has.
Is he the TCU quarterback that was in the furry outfit?
I don't remember that story.
Really? Okay.
No.
Never mind that. He went to like one of their quarterbacks went to a furry convention and tweeted.
I really hope it was not Josh Hoover now. I really hope it wasn't Josh Hoover, but wow. Okay. Anyways, Norris, you got one more team to pick here. Who are you going to take?
You messed me up because you picked Ole Miss. Dang. I'm going to go Michigan.
Michigan. New head coach Kyle Whittingham.
Yeah, I love their quarterback, too. I love Bryce Underwood.
Bryce Underwood's a very, very talented player, and Whittingham has done a really good job at getting the best out of his quarterbacks.
I've watched this kid play in high school, and then I see him on the next level, and I saw his debut.
Yeah.
Now, of course, first year, he ain't finna get it the first year. About that second or third year, third year gonna be his make or break, but I think they can get to the playoffs at least. I don't know to the ways of the national championship. I don't know if he's there yet, but he will get there eventually.
Yeah, I think Bryce Underwood can be a very good player. You just got to be able to unlock that potential, and I think Kyle Whittingham is one of the best coaches to do it here. Jackson, final pick. Who you got?
Give me USC, Southern Cal.
Why do you like Southern Cal?
I think if any year for USC to make the playoffs, I think it's this year. They have a pretty doable, workable schedule.
Yeah.
They don't play Notre Dame. Thank you for locking them out, by the way, Lincoln Riley. And, Lincoln Riley, coach, playoff caliber coach. We have yet to see him do it at USC. I think this is the year. Now, they are losing Mekhi Lemon, but USC has the pedigree of having top wide receiver talent.
They do.
And quality quarterback play under Lincoln Riley. So, their defense improved last year. I think that trend will continue under this DC that they brought in last year. So I think USC, I think they're probably like a 10, 11, 12 seed going into the playoffs.
And this feels like it has to be the year for USC, right? You make the big addition with Lincoln Riley. Obviously, Caleb Williams didn't make the playoffs. Now that you've expanded the playoff, your run game was a little bit better than it previously was last season. Your defense improved. Jaden Mayava has a top 10. Jaden Mayava, I think, is the 9th or 10th all-time leader in Big Ten passing yards in terms of single-season records. So you've got a quarterback who's very capable. You know that your defense should take that next step. You know that your run game should be serviceable. And I think that's what you want if you're USC. You don't need this massive ground and pound game, but you need it to be serviceable to take some of that pressure off of him. They out-physicaled a couple of teams last year. They out-physicaled Michigan last year. And when you think about physical football, the Maize and Blue is one of the first teams that comes to mind. So I think USC is on a upward trend. It may not be as quickly of an upward trend as what they hope, but I do think the Trojans are on an upward tick here when you look at their trajectory here under Lincoln Riley. So we've got our 5 teams here. Jackson, you're rolling with Georgia, Texas, Notre Dame, Texas A&M, and USC. 3 SEC, 1 independent, 1 Big Ten. Norris, you've got Miami, Alabama, LSU, Texas Tech, and Michigan. 2 SEC, 1 Big 12, 1 ACC, and 1 Big Ten. I like the coverage spread there. Like you kind of dipped your toe in a lot of conferences here. And then I've got Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana out of the Big Ten, and then Oklahoma and Ole Miss out of the SEC. Went with the O theme. And I couldn't think of another O team on the spot to, make it a trend. So we're rolling with the Indiana Hoosiers there as the final pick. So this was a good exercise. I actually really enjoyed this exercise. And so a lot of teams that can compete, a lot of teams that, granted, we got 15 teams here, so this won't be a playoff field or anything like that. But I feel like a lot of us have a lot of good chances to get teams into the college football playoff. I think, Jackson, you've probably got the best shot there. I wouldn't be shocked if 4 of your 5. I wouldn't be shocked if all 5 of yours are in the playoff field. And I'd be willing to bet money right now that at least 4 out of your 5 would be Georgia, Texas, Notre Dame, and Texas A&M. I'd be willing to bet money that those 4 are making the playoff.
Yeah, I would too. But I would also say your list out of Oregon, Ohio State, Indiana, and Oklahoma, I think those 4 probably get in as well.
And then Norris here,
Maybe
Miami.
You could have 5 too.
Norris, you got Miami, Alabama, LSU. I think those three are definitely playoff contenders. Miami more of a national championship contender than simply just making the playoff. I'm interested in Texas Tech because as of right now, until we hear something official, we're going to operate like Brendan Sorsby's not going to play, which means that you're down to Will Hammond there when you look at Texas Tech. And Michigan, I like the pick because Michigan, if they can establish the ground game and get just a little more out of Bryce Underwood, that could be another dangerous program. So really fun exercise today here. That's going to do it for us today on the Deep South College Football Show. Coming up next on the radio side of things is The Game with Ryan Fowler from 2 until 5:45 p.m. At 5:45 on the Tide 100.9 app and on Tide 100.9 FM. Alabama baseball will take over for their final series of the regular season as they take on the Ole Miss Rebels here in Tuscaloosa at the Joe. For Jackson, for Norris, I'm Wyatt Fulton.